What happens when an undercover CEO overhears one of his own employees insulting management, only to reveal a truth no one saw coming? David Reynolds, CEO of Reynolds Logistics, adjusted his worn-out uniform cap and tucked his hands into his pockets. Dressed as Dave, a temporary warehouse hire, he blended in with the other workers scattered across the massive distribution center. Pallets lined the towering shelves, forklifts whirred in the distance, and the faint scent of dust and motor oil filled the air. David's decision to go undercover wasn't random. Recent complaints about poor employee morale, inefficiency, and hostility toward management had reached his desk. Instead of relying on filtered reports, David decided to witness things firsthand, by stepping into his employees' world unnoticed. From the moment David walked into the warehouse, he sensed tension. Workers barely spoke to one another. Some moved sluggishly, and others seemed lost in frustration. "Hey, new guy!" a voice barked. David turned to see Marcus, a stocky worker with a worn-out safety vest, approaching him. "What's up?" David asked. Casually. "What's up?" Marcus mocked. "What's up is that management's a joke around here. Hope you're ready to pick up their slack." "I'll do my best," David said calmly, feeling Marcus's bitterness linger. Later that morning, David sat in the break room sipping stale coffee when Marcus and two other employees, Ethan and Kurt, slumped into the chairs across from him. "Man, if I have to hear management push those efficiency goals one more time, I'm gonna lose it," Marcus grumbled. "Right?" Ethan snorted, like they know what they're talking about. All they do is sit in their air-conditioned offices while we bust our backs out here. "Bunch of clueless suits," Marcus sneered. "Especially that CEO, David Reynolds. Guy's got his head so far up in the clouds he probably doesn't know how to hold a clipboard." David's grip on his coffee cup tightened. He kept his face neutral. "This is what they think of me?" "Yeah," Kurt chuckled. "If Reynolds showed up here, I'd tell him to grab a broom and actually work for once." "Please," Marcus scoffed. "He'd probably just break something." The table erupted in laughter. David forced himself to smile. Let them laugh now, he thought. I need to know why they feel this way. Over the next few hours, David quietly observed the warehouse's issues firsthand. Workers struggled to manage. Outdated equipment, forklifts stalled frequently, and damaged inventory piled up in corners. It wasn't laziness. They were overwhelmed. The tension wasn't rooted in laziness or bad attitudes. It came from frustration. They didn't feel heard. David watched Marcus attempt to scan pallets using a sluggish, outdated device. Each scan took nearly 30 seconds to register. "Come on," Marcus muttered, tapping the screen in frustration. "Stupid scanners slower than management's decision-making." "Is that why things are so behind?" David asked casually, stepping closer. Marcus groaned. "Yeah, we've been begging for upgraded scanners for months. Management keeps telling us they're working on it. Meanwhile, we're stuck playing Guess the Barcode." "Sounds rough," David muttered. "More like impossible," Marcus said bitterly. "And then they blame us when we miss deadlines." That afternoon, a supervisor named Carl stormed into the warehouse. "Marcus," Carl barked, "what's with the delays on those outbound shipments? We're way behind." "I'm doing my best," Marcus shot back. "The scanners barely work. The forklifts keep stalling. What do you expect?" "I expect you to stop making excuses," Carl snapped. "Maybe if you spent less time whining and more time working, we wouldn't be in this mess." "Yeah," Marcus fired back. "Maybe if management actually fixed the problems instead of blaming us, we'd have a chance." "Watch it," Carl warned. "You're one comment away from losing this job." Marcus clenched his fists, chest rising and falling rapidly. "Go ahead," he spat. "Fire me. Then see how fast this place falls apart. You think this warehouse runs because of you?" Carl sneered. "You're lucky they haven't replaced you yet." David stepped between them. "Hold on," he said firmly. "No one's getting fired today." "Who asked you?" Carl growled. "I'm just saying," David replied calmly. "Sounds like Marcus is trying to fix a broken system, and you're blaming him for it." Carl snorted. "Fix the system? He's just another lazy worker who thinks he's smarter than his boss." David's jaw tightened. Maybe if management spent a little more time listening, he said coldly, they'd see the crew's been working harder than anyone gives them credit for. Carl glared at David. You better watch yourself. I think you better watch yourself, David muttered under his breath. That evening, David sat in his car outside the warehouse, processing everything he'd seen. The workers weren't lazy. They were frustrated, exhausted, and unsupported. Marcus wasn't just bad-mouthing management for no reason. He was trying to be heard. I let this happen, David muttered. But I'm going to fix it. He reached for his phone and dialed a number. Hey, James, David said to his district manager. We've got a lot to talk about, and some big changes to make. David Reynolds sat in his car outside the warehouse, still thinking about the tension-filled day he'd just experienced. Marcus wasn't just an employee who complained. He was someone desperate for things to change. David knew that fixing things would require more than just firing managers or buying new equipment. He had to win back his employees' trust. It's time to set things right, David muttered to himself. The next morning, David returned to the warehouse early, still disguised as Dave. He found Carl, the aggressive supervisor, reviewing inventory sheets in his office. Got a minute? David asked, stepping inside. Carl barely looked up. Make it quick. I wanted to talk about Marcus, David said. He's not lazy. He's frustrated. And honestly, I get it. Carl snorted. You've been here, 2 days? Don't act like you know how this place works. I know enough, David shot back. The equipment's outdated, people are exhausted, and instead of fixing the problems, you blame the workers. Carl's expression hardened. Look, I'm just doing what I was told. Push harder, hit targets. If that means riding the crew harder, so be it. Pushing harder isn't leadership, David said coldly. Listening is. That afternoon, David found Marcus stacking boxes in the loading bay. The tension in Marcus's face was obvious, and David knew why. Hey, David said, grabbing a box to help. Rough morning. Same as always, Marcus muttered. Management's still blaming us for their problems. Maybe, David said carefully. But what if someone was actually ready to listen? Marcus scoffed. Yeah? The day management listens is the day pigs fly. You'd be surprised, David said with a grin. If you could fix one thing here, where would you start? Marcus paused, surprised by the question. Honestly? New scanners, those outdated things waste half our time. That and better shift planning. We're always stretched too thin. David nodded thoughtfully. That's good to know. That evening, David returned to his hotel room and made a series of phone calls. By morning, 2 key changes were already in motion. The first change came when a technician arrived to replace the warehouse's aging scanners with faster, more efficient devices. Marcus's jaw dropped when the technician began unpacking the new equipment. Wait, when did that get approved? Marcus asked. Management's finally paying attention, David said with a wink. Guess someone lit a fire under them. The second change involved staffing. David coordinated with HR to adjust the crew's schedules, balancing shifts better, ensuring more break coverage, and preventing overtime burnout. We've been asking for this for months, Marcus muttered in disbelief. How'd this happen so fast? Guess management's finally listening, David said. Later that week, David stood quietly near the break room as James, the district manager, addressed the team. I know things have been hard, James began, but we're making changes, starting. Now, we've improved scheduling, added new equipment, and created a better process for reporting problems so they actually get fixed, the employees murmured with cautious hope. And one more thing, James continued. We know some of you feel like management hasn't listened. That's about to change. David stepped forward, now wearing his usual suit. Wait, what? Marcus stammered. Your management? I'm David Reynolds, David said calmly, and I heard every word you said. The room fell silent. Look, David said, I didn't come here undercover just to spy. I came here to understand what's been going wrong. The truth is, you guys were right. We weren't listening, and people like Marcus had every reason to be frustrated. Marcus shifted awkwardly. I didn't mean… No, David interrupted. I'm glad you spoke up, because you were right, and now we're going to fix it. As the meeting ended, Marcus approached David hesitantly. I guess I should apologize, Marcus muttered. Didn't know I was trash-talking the guy actually trying to help. Don't apologize, David said with a smile. You spoke the truth. Sometimes, that's exactly what leadership needs to hear. For the first time since David arrived, Marcus smiled back. Guess management's not so bad after all. David Reynolds knew the changes he'd implemented were only the beginning. Upgrading equipment and fixing schedules had improved efficiency, but the warehouse staff's morale still seemed fragile. For real change to take root, David needed to show his employees, especially Marcus, that management's commitment wasn't temporary. Trust takes time, David reminded himself, and I'm not leaving until I've earned it. In the weeks that followed, David made his presence known, this time as the CEO. Each morning he walked the warehouse floor, asking employees how things were going. The conversations were awkward at first, but soon the crew began opening up. I actually like the new scanners, Marcus admitted one morning, testing the device's faster response. Never thought I'd say that about anything management does. Glad to hear it, David replied. But if anything's still slowing you down, let me know. Wait, you actually want to hear what's wrong? Marcus asked, half joking. I didn't. Come here to pretend, David said with a grin. I came to fix things, for good. One afternoon, James, the district manager, asked David to assess potential leaders within the warehouse. David's thoughts immediately went to Marcus. Despite his frustration, Marcus knew the warehouse inside out and had earned the respect of his peers. Later that day, David pulled Marcus aside. Marcus, have you ever thought about stepping into a leadership role? David asked. Me? Marcus said, blinking in surprise. I barely made it through the last few months without getting fired. That's exactly why I'm asking, David replied. You know what it's like to feel unheard, and I think that's what makes you the right person to lead. Marcus hesitated. I'm not sure I'm manager material. Leadership isn't about titles, David said. It's about standing up for your team, and you've already proven you can do that. Days later, Marcus accepted the role of shift supervisor. The position meant overseeing a small team, balancing workloads, and ensuring deadlines were met. At first, Marcus struggled. Employees who had once seen him as one of them now viewed him with suspicion. Now you're one of them, huh? A co-worker sneered when Marcus tried to introduce a new shelving system. Guess you're just another guy in a suit now. The comment stung, but Marcus kept calm. I get it, he thought. I'd feel the same way. Instead of arguing, Marcus invited his team to share concerns. Over time, they realized he wasn't there to push, he was there to help. You're actually listening, one worker remarked. Feels weird. Good, Marcus grinned. Get used to it. One Friday afternoon, heavy rain pounded the warehouse roof. As the storm worsened, water began leaking near the storage area where electronics were kept. We've got to move this inventory, Marcus shouted. If water reaches the pallets, we're in trouble. That's a 3-hour job, Ethan called back. We don't have enough people. We'll make it work, Marcus said, firmly. Let's go. Leading by example, Marcus grabbed a pallet jack and started hauling boxes to safety. Inspired by his determination, the team jumped in to help. Soon, even David joined the effort. The crew worked shoulder to shoulder, drenched but determined. When the final pallet was moved, the workers erupted in cheers. Nice call, boss, Ethan said, slapping Marcus on the back. Glad you're on our side. For the first time since his promotion, Marcus felt like he belonged. The following Monday, David gathered the team in the break room. I want to recognize someone who went above and beyond during Friday's storm, David began. Not only did he save thousands of dollars in inventory, but he showed what leadership really looks like. He turned to Marcus. Marcus, you stood up for your team, and they stood with you. That's what makes a great leader. The crew erupted in applause. Marcus, clearly moved, smiled proudly. I couldn't have done it without these guys, he said. We made it happen, together, David nodded. That's exactly what this place needed. The warehouse at Reynolds Logistics was changing, and fast. With improved equipment, better scheduling, and leadership that finally listened, the tension that once suffocated the staff had faded. But for David Reynolds, he knew the work wasn't finished yet. For real change to stick, his employees had to believe that their voices would always matter. No more temporary fixes, David reminded himself. This time, we build something better. Since becoming shift supervisor, Marcus had found his rhythm. Employees no longer viewed him as one of management. They saw him as someone who understood their struggles. One afternoon, Ethan, one of Marcus's toughest critics, approached him. Hey, Ethan muttered. You got a minute? Sure, Marcus said, setting down his clipboard. I was thinking, Ethan began, that maybe if we reworked the loading zones we could reduce all the backtracking. Marcus grinned. That's a solid idea. Let's try it. Wait, that's it? Ethan asked. You're actually listening? Of course, Marcus said. I can't fix problems I don't know about. Never thought I'd say this, Ethan muttered with a grin. But you're actually not bad at this. One evening, David visited a nearby Reynolds Logistics supply partner, a busy commercial kitchen that relied heavily on the warehouse's deliveries. The kitchen was chaotic, chefs shouting orders, steam rising from stoves, and dishes clattering as staff rushed to keep up. In the corner, David spotted Marcus, who was helping unload produce crates for the kitchen's late shipment. Marcus was working alongside a young kitchen worker, Luis, who looked overwhelmed. Watch the temperatures on those chicken trays, Marcus advised. If they sit too long, you'll have to toss them. I know, Luis muttered, wiping sweat from his brow. But I can't keep up. There's too much going wrong back here. Marcus quickly assessed the mess. Sauces spilled on counters, staff scrambling to retrieve missing items, and orders delayed. All right, Marcus said firmly. Let's break this down. Luis, you focus on plating. I'll handle the inventory. With Marcus directing the flow, the chaos slowly turned to order. The staff's frantic pace became coordinated, and the dinner rush passed without further disaster. You're good at this, Luis said afterward. Ever think about running a kitchen? Marcus laughed. Trust me, one fire at a time. A week later, a corporate inspector arrived to evaluate the warehouse's recent changes. I need to see your team's workflow, the inspector said curtly. I want to know if these so-called improvements are actually working. Tension filled the room as Marcus's team prepared for the inspection. Workers hurried to ensure everything was spotless. Marcus, sensing their nerves, spoke up. Hey, Marcus said, gathering his crew. Don't sweat it. Just do what you always do. Work hard and have each other's backs. That's what makes this place run. His words settled the room, and soon the team returned to work, focused and confident. The inspection ran smoothly. Impressed by the improved organization and efficiency, the inspector closed his clipboard with a rare smile. Looks like things are finally being done right around here, he said. Later that week, David gathered the employees in the warehouse for an announcement. When I came here undercover, David began, I saw frustration, and with good reason. Management wasn't listening, and you all paid the price. The room fell silent. Marcus watched closely, curious where this was going. But that's changing, David continued. Today, I'm introducing a warehouse employee council, a group of team members who will meet monthly with management to share concerns and offer ideas. The crew murmured with surprise. I want you to know, David added, this isn't just policy. It's a promise. Your voices matter, and they always will. Just days after the announcement, a major shipment unexpectedly arrived. Pallets stacked, floor to ceiling. The delivery came hours early, and half the crew was missing. "We're never clearing this before closing," Ethan groaned. "We'll figure it out," Marcus said. "Everyone take a section. We'll split the load." David, seeing the chaos unfold, grabbed gloves and joined the team. "You don't have to do this," Marcus said, surprised. "Neither do you," David shot back. "But here you are." For the next 2 hours, David and Marcus worked side by side with the crew. The shipment was cleared just before closing, and the employees let out a collective cheer. "I guess management isn't so clueless after all," Ethan joked. "Nah," Marcus grinned. "We're just getting started." The following week, David called Marcus into his office. "I wanted to thank you," David began. "You've shown real leadership these past few weeks." "I'm just doing what needed to be done," Marcus said humbly. "And that's exactly why I want you to take on a new role, as warehouse manager." Marcus's eyes widened. "Me? Are you sure?" "I've never been more sure," David said. "This place didn't just need better equipment, it needed better leadership. And that's what you've given it." Marcus shook David's hand firmly. "I won't let you down." "I know," David replied. "You've already proven that." Days later, as David prepared to leave the warehouse, he paused to watch Marcus lead a morning meeting. The team gathered around him, listening, laughing, and respecting him not just as a boss, but as one of their own. David smiled. "This is what leadership should look like," he thought. And thanks to Marcus, it finally does. If this story moved, you remember, kindness, resilience, and hard work can change lives. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more inspiring stories like this.